Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 154th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Trish S. Today's topics is gratitude and contempt prior to investigation. Can you share what these mean to you, Trish, and why you're happy to discuss these topics here today?
Well, hi, Milan. Thanks again for hosting this podcast. Yeah, to me, those things actually are intimately tied. So when I first came into the program, I had a difficult time with a lot of things. The whole notion of somehow this was just going to be a power greater than myself that was going to solve all my problems. I had a difficult time with that. So I will say that, I know there was a part of me that had real contempt prior to investigation, yet, I continued going. I stayed in the rooms, and I continued to explore this. And really, it's a simple program with a simple solution for obviously very, very complicated people. And I realized that I stood in my own way a lot. So for me, this program took way longer than necessary and was way harder or way easier than I made it. I made it very, very difficult, which was frankly very familiar in the rest of my life. So until I was able to really face myself and my part, like how am I standing in my own way? Like what's my part in not getting this? I just kind of remain stuck. But today, my life is completely different because of these things. And what's miraculous about it is the only thing that had to change was me, and then everything changed.
I love that. Woo! You just brought that all together and cliffhangered. That was great. It's nice to hear your voice and spend some time together here, Trish. And it was great to see you on Wednesday. It was nice. It was a surprise because I didn't think you were coming. So then when I saw you, I was like, yay. And so gratitude is one of the keys to freedom. Gratitude for me is something that is not only something I would make a list of, but it's a state of being that I try to enter into frequently. Yeah, I've started doing this two-way prayer thing. I've actually hit in 3 weeks today on it, and that's been a real transformative experience for me. And part of it, one of the things that I feel like was a response to some of my questions in my prayer was to express gratitude in shorter intervals of time. It's easy for me to get more sidetracked in a day. Like doing a gratitude list in the morning, great way to start the day. Not knocking that at all. It is still part of my life. But to not actively be trying to see gratitude more frequently in moments lets my day go askew. Because I can go from an amazing day to train wreck, what just happened in seconds. And the increased frequency of gratitude throughout the day can keep me from acting out on defects and shortcomings. And and one thing I've realized is, and I've just said this recently, but I'm saying it again, is that gratitude is like a muscle, and we can strengthen our gratitude by flexing that muscle more. And it's one of the few things inside this program where I really, I see that as a very actionable step, for myself. I would hope that it has the same effect on others, but I can only speak for me is that the more I actively try to think of gratitudes, the more I'm in a state of appreciation and in a more serene and joyful state for myself. And and that's an actionable thing. Like I can literally muster up some gratitude because the thing about gratitude is it's not that I'm ungrateful I'm having air. It's that I'm not actually thinking about my gratitude for that air or acting on it, you know, like but you put your hand over my mouth and I'm struggling to breathe. I'm instantly really aware that I like that air. But you know, it's that consciousness of what we have around us that brings us into, you know, kind of that humility of like, wow, I am just a part of this amazingness. And then, you know, the contempt prior to investigation, you know, that was that I had contempt prior to my investigation of this program. I absolutely did. You know, it kind of, I think it was a funny topic to pick because I literally was contemptuous for sure, just because of the G word. Like, I was like, well, no, sorry. Had one experience, went to a meeting. It was super depressing. I was like, whoa, I might be an alcoholic, but I am not depressed. I was like, I'm out of here. And that kept me from being in the program for 12 years, like literally 12 more years of pain because had contempt for something that I hadn't fully investigated. So anyway, I'm happy to roll into our questions, and I'm happy to be here with you, Trish. And do you
Yeah,
want?
just on what you just said, you know, you said a lot there,
Yeah.
Milan, and you know, it really comes down to this: whatever you focus on, you get.
Hmm.
And that's just, it's just simply a powerful thing to learn and understand. And I think that you identified that really well in what you just said. And also just how we take things for granted. And you had a
Mm.
profound experience, you know, while using, you know, health is everything. Like health is wealth. And I'm right now, I'm struggling with a problem with my hip, and it all that has done for me, which is a profound change, spiritual change for me, is made me more grateful. Now, for a lot of people who don't work this program, it allows you to really be grateful for the things that we take for granted, you know, and I really took a lot of things for granted. So I'm being shown actually, you know, where I was lacking in gratitude. So um, that whole thing about first you have this, like you were just saying about the program, first you had contempt, and now you have gratitude for everything it's taught you because it's changed your entire perspective on your life and the way you live it.
Yeah, and I love what you said. You know, uh, we, okay, your
What you
exact.
focus on, you get.
Yes, and the phrase for me, like there was a sign right across from me in my treatment center, and it said, "That which you focus on becomes greater."
Right.
And you know, like whether you want to call it get or becomes greater, it's true. And
Thoughts become things and they
thoughts,
possess us.
yeah, and I absolutely believe that, and that is why I focus on my recovery and not my addiction.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm giving attention to where I want to be, not where I want to get away from.
Right.
You know, it's like uh, it's like kind of concept reframing, and in the same sense, it's like, you know, dealing with the financial wreckage of my past. I was experiencing a lot of anxiety about finances, and it's like, well, I can worry about my debts or I can focus on my financial abundance. And the difference is a life changing switch that happens right away.
100%. You know, and I think before we go any further, for those who maybe don't know about uh, Herbert Spencer's quote, we should quote it. And it
Yes.
is, there is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. And that principle is contempt prior to investigation. And I think there's a lot to that, which we in the program learn as we continue, right? We were able to see where we've stood in our own way, and that is that contempt prior to investigation. We come in thinking we know it all, yet our best thinking got us there.
And that
It's
and that comes at the end of a chapter, right?
That's correct.
And so, to somebody who's never read that chapter, can you describe why they would drop that bomb at the end of that chapter?
Well, yeah, and I think this is all about the spirit. It's at the end of spiritual awakening, actually. Just I can grab my book here. I don't have it right beside me, but but I think that we can all agree, for ourselves and for the newcomer. We see it to this day. This notion of that this is a spiritual awakening, a spiritual growth kind of program where you surrender to this power greater than yourselves, and that's very, very difficult, for a lot of us who came into the program. And I know very, very few people um, that came in and didn't kind of go, wait a minute, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, so, and yet it's all in the spirit, right? The spirit in which we live, in which we give, in which we think, in which we be has changed remarkably. We do not respond to ourselves and others the way we once did. We talk about emotional sobriety as well, right? And that's really what it is. Like, we have changed our interpretation of the story of our lives and the story around us. And that's made all the difference. Again, the only thing that needs to change for everything to change in your life is yourself. And that's it. And that's the profound spiritual awakening. And whether you're in or out of this program, I think that everybody can relate to that. Like, once they understood and took a different perspective, it was like, wow, okay, I see things differently.
I think it happens a lot with athletes, sometimes businessmen and women. You know, like people who are striving for change in their life. You know, will inevitably reach a point where they'll find that they're the limiting factor on their growth.
Right. Like, it really is about removing the mountain in the mind, like really moving mountains. And that's what I love about this program, because it shows us what our part is in creating and holding that mountain rather than changing it. Like, what he opens in his mind, no one can shut, and what he shuts in his mind, no one can open. It's really an inside job, right? It's really an inside job. And once we get over that contempt and actually surrender to, okay, I'm going to full-heartedly try this. I'm going to come at this like with pure curiosity, like a child, and let go of everything I think I know, and just practice this. And then boom. So you're right about people in or out of this program. That's in fact how we climb that ladder, in our own lives of things that we're striving for, any form of success. It's like we have to realize and figure out where we stand in our own way.
I love that. And so I've got a question for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, contempt is a symptom of fear disguised as certainty. What belief did you once resist in recovery that later became a spiritual truth for you?
Well, I think, again, uh, I resisted these steps. I resisted this program because I didn't see how that could work or how that could change anything. It all when I first got here, I thought it was all real woo woo. Like, yeah, I found it very difficult to believe, because I came from, I was raised by alcoholics, so I had a real thinking problem, which, thanks to this program, helped me identify that. Um,
And that
and
problem
that,
is Trish.
yeah, yeah, my problem is Trish, right? And that's so powerful because that's a problem I can solve. Like trying to hold back the ocean tide of him, her, this or that, and to control everything outside of myself is a fruitless venture, right? It's a recipe for crazy making. But when I realized that, oh, like where I'm powerful, like this is just me on me. Like I can change myself. That I have power over. And that's everything.
I love that. Okay, contempt is a symptom of fear disguised as certainty. What belief did I once resist in recovery? Later, that became a spiritual truth for me. Well, I'm gonna bring it back to my experience with religion, with Catholic religion, and like that that very using the G word, like using the God word really was a barrier for me for a long time, and higher power eased me into it, but now for me it's the universe, and anybody can call it what they want as long as they don't make me call it something. And that's one of the things that this is one of the supposed freedoms of this program, because for me I feel a massive spiritual truth and connection with the universe right now. And if that is my higher power and or my God, then it was something that I resisted for sure early on, and just even from that one meeting where I didn't come back for 12 years and was swore I'd never would really. But what happened was his life changed, and the wonderful gift of desperation brought out in me more of an open mind and a willingness for change, right? And
It's a great acronym, gift of desperation.
yeah, and that it really was for me, is that I was definitely desperate, but um, I think that there's a lot of loneliness inside addiction, and to feel actually connected and part of something is a big part of recovery. And at first, for some people, it might only mean being connected to the people at the meetings before they reconnect with whatever higher power that works for them. But for me, it was it was a very connecting and part of feeling experience for my connection to my higher power.
Empowering, absolutely. And you just identified to me exactly what page 68 states, which is the verdict of the ages is that all men of courage have faith. They trust their God. We do not apologize for God. Instead, we let him demonstrate through us what he can do. And that's that connection you're talking about. When we allow that power and that empowerment to come through, it's a real force to be reckoned with. Like I think it ignites such a passion with people who really are working this program, that they become someone that's almost foreign to them. They're doing things and giving freely of themselves in ways they would have never done before, right? Without sort of thought of recompense, right? This is really incredible for me. That's one of the most powerful things about the program for me, is just that the amount of service all over the world that's just freely given, right? To create this kind of empowered connection that you cannot get anywhere else that you're talking about.
Yeah,
It's really miraculous when you break it down and think about it.
it's 100% miraculous, and also it's
Like, and
like,
I will just say, coming from the most selfish of people, right? Like
mm.
admitted selfish people,
Oh, I wouldn't
that
need. I
makes
was
it
so
so
selfish. I was.
miraculous.
I was so selfish that I couldn't see my selfishness. Okay, let's
Right,
let's just be
right.
straight.
That's what
I
makes it
remember
so
going into
miraculous.
treatment, and they're like, "You might be a little bit self-centered," and I was like, I was up in arms. I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm generous and I'm nice and I'm blah blah blah," and I was not ready to admit that the first day I was there. Let me tell you that. Like it was just like, "Hi, here's all of your stuff, and we're gonna confront you on it relentlessly."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Huh?"
Right. Here's your
But
part. Are you ready?
yeah, yeah, here's my part. But one thing to respond to what you just said there was that I don't feel like I'm the same person I was 22 months ago at all.
And you're not.
Like I'm like it's such a different person that I feel like I have to role play seeing somebody I have not seen in a few years.
Right.
Yeah,
And
like
that's the point.
just to,
This a mind, that's what a mind is for. Minds are for changing
mhm,
and growing and learning. And it's essential, especially for depressives like alcoholics and addicts, right? So this is critical. That's why it's a spiritual solution, because that life keeps you stuck. And for you to look back and go, wow, that's like a different person, and to have such gratitude and freedom from that, knowing that all I had to do was make some changes within my own spirit to change that entire spirit around me. So the things you notice today, the things you talk about, the things you give life to, right?
mhm,
Um, are entirely anathema to where you were at 22 months ago.
absolutely. Do you have questions?
I didn't write any down,
Okay, okay. I
but
got
I'm
lots of
sure lots
questions,
will
but
come up. Lots will come up.
okay. Do you want me to ask another one then?
Sure.
Okay. The most powerful prayers often begin with thank you, even when we don't yet see the outcome. What does it mean to you today to live in the spirit of thank you?
Mm, wow. Yeah. It really is everything. Um, you know, there's a page, and as Bill sees it, on page 29, gratitude should go forward rather than backwards. In other words, if you carry the message to others, you'll be making the best possible repayment for the help given to you. I don't think I understood the reciprocal nature of this program, and in service to other self and others. Like, by giving freely, we get back more than we could ever imagine. And that's just an inside job. Like, no one could ever explain that to you. It's really by experience. You have to experience it to understand that. Right. So, I never thought, it's so crazy to think about it, that I would be grateful. I'm so grateful for everything. This is how the story changes. I'm so grateful for my life and for everything that's happened, because it brought me to where I am today. And when I really look at it, I don't know that I would have got here any other way. And I find that, people in the rooms, our favorite way to learn is the hard way, right? Like, it's like, until we run into a brick wall, it's like, oh, I need to address a few things, right? Like, this is a problem. We have a hard time with that because, for me, drinking wasn't my problem. It was my solution to everything. Like, name something, that was my solution. So, it was a difficult leap to think, like, well, how is this a problem? Right. Um, so yeah, yeah, that's what's given me the serenity I live in today, is everything I've learned here, which is ironic, from a group full of drunks all over the world that just give freely of themselves. That's where I've learned some of the best wisdom in my life. Like, there it's really there. It's such a miraculous program, and I think that it couldn't have survived without being free the way it is. Right? It's really free in every way. There's no there's no thought of recompense. And I think that's what's made the difference.
I think that that's one thing that I think initially is a little bit hard for people to wrap their heads around is service for service sake.
Right?
We could almost have a whole podcast on that one day.
Right.
Like how to investigate whether you're truly doing service for service sake. But it's at least a starting point, you know. And I think some of it initially is really feeding people's self-esteem, right?
Right. You
Yeah,
know,
but you know, but it's at an all-time low. Anyway, I just got to grab something.
okay.
I think that their self-esteem is at an all-time low when you're first coming into the program. So, you know, building up a little bit of self-esteem, I think, is keeps a lot of people probably from committing suicide. You know,
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. And this is why it's so miraculous that so many of us today see the gratitude in the program. Like, Bill says that gratitude that I once suffered the pains of alcoholism. I have gratitude that a miracle of recovery has been worked upon me. Gratitude for the privilege of serving my fellows, and gratitude for those fraternal ties, this connection you're talking about, which bound me even closer in a comradeship such as few societies of men have ever known, which is I don't find that kind of honesty and connection anywhere else in the world, frankly. I
no,
really don't. And then he says about a clergyman that said to him, your misfortune has become your good fortune. You
yes.
AAs are a privileged people. And that's the miracle for this boozer today. I actually think that way.
Well, that's why the gift of desperation really
Right,
is a suitable phrase to me. Like
right,
I literally, you know, when we spoke of this on the last podcast, we did, but that turning point of me dying was a turning point for the better. And, you know, as much as I don't regret my house burning down when I was 25, I also don't regret my life burning down when I was 51.
right.
You know, like, in a perfect world, great. I would have found recovery when I was 19, like some people. Woohoo! But I wouldn't have the kid I have now. I wouldn't be with the woman that I have now. I wouldn't live where I live now. Like I'm not wishing my life was different in any way right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas what a change from 22 months ago, where I'm sure that's all you did. I mean, certainly for me, I just yeah, I wanted everything to change, but didn't realize how I was standing in the way of that,
I
right?
wasn't happy with anything right at that moment.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah.
No, it was a dark time those last few months for sure for me. So, if I am going to answer, what does it mean to me today to live in the spirit of thank you? You know, the in the spirit of thank you and trying to bring gratitude more into my life and my days, you know, that means that I'm freer. That means that I'm happier about moments. That means that I'm finding the joy in moments and I'm converting, you know, expectations into freedom, really. You know, the more that I'm experiencing gratitude, the less I'm expecting you to be something else in the future. I'm not future like whatever spinning. I'm here. If I'm being grateful for right now, I'm generally more present, and it's the present moment where I have the best chance of being the best me
Yeah.
and offering the most that I can to the moment. And when I'm just lamenting in the past or, you know, starting to plan tomorrow out completely, I am guaranteed not living in a grateful moment right now. Like there's, you just can't be at two places at once. And I think they've proven that multitasking is a load of shit. Like you don't, it's true. Like you, I can do more than one thing at once, and I'm gonna do a couple, like a bunch of things shittily, and not be awesome at them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a very common refrain. I certainly was for myself, where I was never where I was. So just learning how to be present was everything, right? Just how do I be here now? And that's to me what this program teaches us, right? Is how to do this thing one day at a time. Just be here now, and this is that whole thing about surrender, of letting go.
Yeah. Are you ready for a question?
Sure.
Okay, contempt is fear with a closed mind. Gratitude is love with open eyes. How do you recognize when fear is hiding behind your resistance?
How do I recognize when fear is hiding behind my resistance? Well, it comes pretty quickly today, because what you were just talking about before too kind of identifies that part in our literature, which talks about wanting to control the whole play and manage all the players and all that stuff. And so today, whenever that comes up, that's when I realize, what's really going on, and get underneath that fear, and then go back to this place of surrender. It's like, know your part and know your place, right? Um, yeah. What was say the end of the question again?
How do you recognize when fear is hiding behind your resistance?
Yeah. So, you know, this is why I always introduce myself as I'm an alcoholic. My problem's Trish, right? Because I need constant reminding of that I'm my own problem. Like, you're not my problem. Him, her, this or that is not my problem. I stand at the beginning, middle, and end of all my problems. I mean, that's one thing, one of my first sponsors said to me, as I, went on and on in my victimhood about something or other, and she just stopped me and said, what part of your life are you responsible for, Trish?
I love that.
And then I kind of, was doughy eyed thinking, what? And she said, I'll give you a hint, all of it, all the time, all of it, all the time. So the program has taught me, how to change my perspective, and more importantly, see my part. Like, how did I get here? I have free will. I have free choice. I got myself in this situation. And then for me to understand the hows and whys of it, like, what am I really looking for? What am I trying to, what's my intention here? What's my motivation here? And it will 9 times out of 10 lead back to this control, or maybe I'm looking for acknowledgement or recognition, or validation or something like that, right? um, and that was something, interestingly enough, that I noted with that noon meeting that I helped to create. um, and I realized that it was becoming my meeting. That was the whole point of that. It's like, no, it's not mine. I just freely gave what was given to me, and I've been of service of it for a year, and now I just need to open up and allow others to step in and take it over, because it became a very popular meeting. I didn't know that when I was creating that meeting. I didn't know how it would go. I'm in a small community. Everybody's got their own home group. um, everybody's committed to other meetings. So, we'll see. And I've been very honest about, I created that nooner out of selfishness, because I'm
Mm.
self-centered to the core. I wanted a nooner. Like, I got here in the middle of the summer, but as it, I thought, what, it's a long drive to a lot of other meetings. It's going to get dark, and there'll be inclement weather. And my life today, I used to be a total night owl. My day would get going in the evening. Today I go to bed. I have like this nighttime regime, and I like to be in bed by 9 o'clock. So I selfishly started this, and this meeting, and but I use that egoic transferable skill, right? Where it isn't about me. It's about the people who show up. That's what the upside down triangle of this organization is. It's about the people. The people matter most. Without us and all those meetings and all those rooms, it all falls apart.
So I would like a follow-up question just from your response. So now, if you're admitting it was an act of selfishness to start that meeting, what
Mhm.
are your feelings about acts of selfishness that end up benefiting others? Like,
Well,
like,
well,
like that doesn't mean that it
that's
was a bad thing.
no, it was no,
So
no,
then how do we
totally. I mean,
define when selfishness is
well,
good or bad?
because
Because if we don't know the future results.
yeah, well, here's what it is, though. Selfishly, that's what I wanted, but it was in service of others. Like,
Mm,
it doesn't even happen, or isn't even a meeting unless other people show up.
yeah.
So, but that whole point too can lead back to all kinds of us in the room who are also, people pleasers, et cetera, right? So,
Mm.
so selfish. That's the language I choose, because that's what I wanted. Today I have to take a really good hard look at what my wants and needs are, right?
Hmm.
Like, what do I really want and why? If it was just if it was just something for me,
Hmm.
that would be different. But it wasn't, and I
Hmm.
knew right away it will either work or it won't. If people don't show up, then my selfishness is for naught. But
Hmm.
it was also in service, right? So it wasn't just for me. I knew in my heart of hearts that there's a lot of, especially because I live in an aging community, and there's a lot of aging people in the program where I live. So I know they would really appreciate a nooner, right? They're done at the end of the end after dinner too. They're
They're done by 4:30, some of
yeah,
them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I was thinking about others, and I also, I will say too that I studied the entire district, like, for a while, to even choose that particular meeting at that particular time on that particular
Mm.
day, because there wasn't one. So in that, I can look at it and say, yeah, I selfishly wanted this, but I did a lot of selfless work for others while I was putting that together. And I
Nice.
also made sure that this was it's based on the book Living Sober, and there is no meeting, not anywhere
Hmm.
in the district, based on that book. And for me, that's an important book, because that's what we're here to do, is learn how to live sober and free and happy as we trudge the road, right? And I needed that, because I couldn't imagine a life without drinking. I mean, I grew up with drinking all around me. That was the goal, that was the point. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think of the song "Everybody's Working for the Weekend."
yeah, right. I
You
mean,
know,
I
like it's just
remember
like,
as
don't be happy now. Don't be
right,
happy now.
right.
Store up your joy because you're gonna get wasted.
Yeah, no, I remember sitting at the kids' table at events, just thinking the whole goal was to get to the big table, because that's where, everybody's having a good time drinking. And hilarious. God's got a sense of humor. I sit at the big table, a few days a week with a bunch of other people who got to sit at the big table for maybe a long time. Anyway, I bought and paid for my chair there many, many times over, and I'm grateful today because of it, which is a complete and utter miracle for this boozer.
Yep. I like how the way your voice changes when you say boozer for this boozer. Like, like it's like you're spitting or something like boozer. I love it. So how do I recognize when fear is hiding behind my resistance? You know, that almost always happens in reflection. I would say that one of the things I'm enjoying about the two-way prayer is it somehow seems to be offering me some tips about my life of how to act before I'm acting out in shortcomings or defects, and that's making the day smoother. Like, I would say my worry center is from the top of the back of my head to the top of my shoulders, and my life has been more relaxed the last 3 weeks, 100%. But, most of the time when something happens, like I recognize that fear is hiding behind my resistance for something, it's in reflection. I'm like, why didn't I like that? Or why didn't I want to do that? Like, and it's like I'm trying to think of my life as a reciprocal event with the people I love and I'm interacting with. So if I want people to be open-minded to me, I need to offer open-mindedness.
Mm,
And so when I'm not, I'm definitely looking like, what was my struggle in that moment with just being okay with what they wanted, you know? Because sometimes, people just want you to agree with them and it's not a big deal. Like it's not like not every decision is like path of destiny or not. Like sometimes it's just like, okay, I don't feel like doing that, but you know what? They did something for me and I'm just happy to be part of things. And
right. Well,
I think that's just like reciprocation and also being flexible for people you love. Like I don't think that
100%. Yeah, our
and
literature talks a lot about flexibility. We get what we give.
mhm. And so if I'm resisting something and I don't know why, I want to know. Like, even it might not, it might be all happening so fast that I might just be like, whoa, whoa, no, I don't feel like that right now. But I'm gonna think about it after and probably come back on it. And if I owe an amends for it, I will say it.
Right.
You
And
know?
you just amplified resistance by falling into it. You know,
Mm,
you've amplified resistance. Like that's our part, right? So we
mm,
get what we give, right? And even if you're getting some resistance at you, you know, we can change that by just completely letting it go and listening, like just holding space for someone else. And what you find is when you do that, when you don't have to participate, but just hold space for someone, which is what we do at meetings, right? Then as they talk, they kind of start to unravel their own riddle. And you realize right away it has nothing to do with you.
yeah.
It has
Of
nothing
course,
to do
it's
with you. It has
I,
everything to do with them. Like they're just sort of let them be and know that, you know, and that's a problem for a lot of people in the program too, I think, that are fixers, again, people pleasers, and so like it's like, oh, you know, I have to do something about this. No, you don't. No, you don't.
mhm,
I mean, unless you're specifically asked a question, which,
mhm.
you know, I think is actually a really another great skill that I've learned to develop is, you know, are they asking me a question, like, or just talking?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think as men, we want to be solution oriented. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I just think that that's like that's our thing. Is like, okay, you got a problem, we got an answer. And I swear, nobody wants our answers.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. No, a lot of
most
times
of the time,
people just want to be heard. They want to be recognized. They want to be validated. They want
they
to
want
be,
to be loved too. They
yeah. And
want to
that's,
be
and that,
loved.
listen, listening and loving are so close that they're almost imperceptible.
Ooh. I love that.
That's the
Yeah,
way we love people. Just listen to them, let them be,
you know that the two parts of that Corinthian reading that like, but love keeps no record of wrongs.
right?
You know, love keeps no record of wrongs, and it's like try to think of a person in your life where you are not keeping some record of wrong. I swear, like I think, or I'm just like the most effective person in the world, but I find there's always something, and like that's just something that's coming up in my two-way prayer that I'm working on all the time now.
And you know
There's
where
not.
I've gotten with it is the base bottom truth of that
Mhm,
is whatever I'm noticing, I am that I am. Oh, I get it. Oh, I've been
mhm.
there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
said that. I felt that way. Oh, yeah. I am that I am. And it's so important to have that reflected back to us. Like that's the great healer, the great fact for me
mm,
is I am that I am. Like, you know, let he without sin cast the first stone, so to speak. It's like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Where do I
yeah,
get off judging anyone about anything at any time? It's not my place. And furthermore, I got enough stuff to do at home. I got my own homework. I got my own backyard. You know, I
yeah,
don't want to be in yours. It's enough. Like just managing myself and my own life is enough.
yeah. I agree. I agree. You ready for another question?
Sure.
Okay. Gratitude transforms entitlement into appreciation and obligation into opportunity. Sorry, I'll read that again. Gratitude transforms entitlement into appreciation and obligation into opportunity. What part of your recovery life do you feel most thankful for today?
Oh wow, what part?
What
Well,
part? Come on.
just 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 the fact, I guess what I'm so grateful for was just the 1% of the problem, quote unquote, which I didn't think was a problem, as we say, you know, putting a plug in the jug, right? Revealed the 99% of the problem, which was me. And that was something I had power over. You know, we talk a lot about powerlessness in this program, but at the end of the day, what it teaches us is where we're powerful and where we're powerless. And because I have power over my life today, because I'm not polluted, you know, and deluded and all and you know, just living in some sort of twisted illusion, um, you know, I'm able to see more clearly and really participate. and co-create my life with that power greater than myself. It's like, oh, when I just take that time to check in, because I'm now able to be present, right? You have to be present to be able to, get that conscious contact, you know.
It only happens in the present moment.
Yeah, 100%. So if you haven't learned how to do that, you're not going to get anywhere. And that took a while for me, like to really learn how to be present. I was just invaded by my own thoughts all the time. Like it was just, I was attacking myself mentally and emotionally and spiritually. But it took a while to realize,
I, 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 I'm not sure I've met anybody who stays present all the time. Like I feel like it's glimmers and
it's
chunks.
a practice.
It's a practice, but like I could see everybody get off of the present moment, you know. Even some of the things that are recommended that we do in the program, like when it says neither live in the past nor close the door on it. Well, if you go to the past, you're not here now, no matter how short the period of time is.
Yeah, but I think, we're not talking about extremes. We're talking about a practice. This is not perfection, it's progress. And the
Yeah,
only thing required is awareness.
yeah, but I
As long
just
as
mean
you're
for people.
aware of what you're doing, you're not obsessed or possessed with that, right? That's the difference. Like we come in, kind of obsessed and possessed about a lot of things,
Mm,
you know so it doesn't have power over you. You're able to, by conscious choice, step in and look at that as a self-reflection of today, but you're still present. Like, your consciousness is present because it doesn't have power over you. It's not it's not possessing you or obsessing you. You're able to stay present in what you're doing, rather than have it take complete and utter hold of you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise, right? Where your behavior is changing. So that's the point of it, of practicing presence, where you're able to self-reflect, whether that's in the future or the past, without losing sense of today.
hmm But I still think that it is like that presence is not a permanent state.
No,
And,
it's a
and, and
practice.
I know it. And I just think it's really important for people to understand that. Like, I
Yeah.
think some people are just like, oh my gosh, I'm never feeling present like that all the time. And I think that it's important for people to hear that and to know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, it's
that,
practice, not perfection. That we talk about that and how it works.
and like I really like, I've heard some speakers say it and I feel it myself, like serenity and my conscious contact with my higher power for me, it comes in glimmers. Like, and I like the word glimmer because it feels like a nice shiny moment when those things happen. And uh, the
The
longer,
question, the question is, are you able to consciously go there? Like in the mansion of our mind, there's all kinds of rooms. There's anger, there's resentment, there's gratitude, there's surrender, all those rooms. Like, are you
mm,
able to consciously leave the room that you're in and go to a different one? That's the point. That's emotional sobriety.
interesting that you say it like that. I'm gonna have to think about that for a while. I'm respond. I like that. I like the way you put it. I definitely like the way you put it.
We have a choice in the room we wish to dwell today.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that how you're phrasing that. That's awesome. I can agree with that.
You
Yeah.
don't have to. You don't have to.
No, I didn't say I did.
You
My
don't
arm
have
wasn't
to.
twisted. You're silly sometimes. Okay, what part of my recovery life do I feel most thankful for today? Well, first of all, my life. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like the fact that I'm still here and it's still me, and I'm not like, maggot feed over there and part over here and whatever. And, like I am happy to be alive. And the part of my recovery life I feel most thankful for today are two things: is the opportunity to be alive and to grow in this program and be spending part of my life with the exposure and growth and knowledge of this program. That I am super grateful for.
Right.
But
So therefore, we have to be grateful for all the pain that brought us here.
Oh yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
That's
I
the
am grateful
miracle
for
of it,
dying
right?
that night. You
The
know, like
contempt we lived in before brought us to
mhm,
the gratitude where we are now. So we garnered pleasure out of the pain, and such pleasure that we're actually grateful for it today. That's the miracle.
mhm. And the other part that I feel super thankful for in my recovery life is watching my daughter coming. Like I don't know how it feels for you and Ella, but I know for me to finally be a positive influence on her life is just amazing to me.
It's everything. I mean, that's really when my faith turned around. I had many years under my belt, and I probably had the biggest spiritual awakening around all of that with my daughter years later. So it tells me that this program just keeps unfolding. I am immensely grateful. We have an incredible relationship today, and that's because we're growing along spiritual lines. Like, we live in a different spirit today. I think my default spirit back in the day was probably victim,
Mm,
right?
yeah. Oh, I was great at a pity party. We would have had a great time. I would be like, Trish, pour me, and you'd be like, more, pour me, Milan. And I'd be
Yeah,
like, no, no, but like, there's more poorness in my meanness. And you'd be like, no, no, me, pour, 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 pour.
yeah. One upping on the victim. Yeah. And today,
And that's still pride. That's the
right?
amazing thing is that that is
100%.
pride. You know,
100%.
like being the worst of the worst is still pride. And I
And
love
and
finding that out.
right. And today I'm a victor in my life because of the
Woo.
tools I've learned. So I went from a victim to a victor. It's like, oh, right, that's right. Where are you powerless and where are you powerful? And
Mm.
for me, there's so many times where stuff will come up in my life, and I think, okay, you're on step one, right? You're
Yep.
power,
Yep.
or you're where are you powerful, right? Where are you
Yes.
powerful, right?
I got a question for you. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. We can't grow spiritually while clinging to the comfort of preconceived judgment.
Hmm.
What practice helps you stay teachable even years into recovery?
Okay. Well, I would have to say step 11, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's everything for me. When I lose my conscious contact with a power greater than myself, um, then I'm completely lost. And it tells us exactly, actually, in that step. We're praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out, not mine. So that's why always at the end of the serenity prayer, I always say, thy will be done, not mine. I have to remind myself again, I'm an alcoholic, my problem's Trish. I have to remind myself, like, these are little things that I do to just to go, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. So I don't really need to do anything. I used to live a life of, you know if I be this person and I do this, then I'll have this. And today I know that I have this, right? Which allows me to be this, which allows me to do this. So it's completely inverted, and I think that's quite common out in the world. I need to be this person to do this so that I can have this, and it's actually completely opposite. But again, that's the present moment, and again, learning about self-love, self-compassion, about self-care. Like, it's not selfish today, it's selfless, in the sense that my business is me. I need to keep my own house in order. So it might sound like it's all about me all the time, but it's a completely different way of looking at it. Like, yeah, my life is about me. Like, what's my part? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And how are you contributing to the whole? Like, again, you talked about whatever that resistance, like falling into resistance, amplifying resistance, generating resistance. It's like, okay, yeah, that's how powerful you are. Like, you can really make a crap show out of anything. but
Absolutely.
but today I have conscious contact to connect myself to, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like His will. That sounds like smacks really loudly of mine.
Yeah. So what practice helps me stay teachable into my recovery? I can't put even years. You know, for me, I would say that it is a combination of right now of step 10 and 11. You
Hmm.
know, because step 10 is showing me kind of, like signposts of where I need to go.
Right,
You
right,
know, and then step 11 is like taking that and asking my higher power how to sort out how to get there, essentially. And and another thing that bears into there is humility, where it's like saying that, hey, I still am work in progress all the time. Like I can have great days, and they might not be great days for the people around me. That's one of the things that I've learned in life is my experience of this reality is not yours. And some like especially inside my addiction or alcoholism, some of the nights I'd come out of like, woo, best night ever. And that might be a path of destruction behind me of like families, friends, like relationships, everything. Like, and I was just oblivious to it. And
right.
so,
I
and
was the
so,
last to know.
yeah. And so at least now, inventorying myself and taking a look humbly, looking at my stuff, it helps point me in the right direction. And,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I am blessed with willingness. I really am blessed with willingness.
yeah.
I am so hot diggity dog on this program. Like I'm not like it's not like I'm really lucky. Like some people have to drag their ass to a meeting once a week. I'm like, woohoo! Hey, can we do 5 podcasts in one day and then go to a meeting after? And
Yeah.
and in between the podcasts, I got a sponsee session. Like I'm lucky that I feel so much enthusiasm for it because I have a friend who's really struggling right now. And I'm like, man, I wish I could give you some willingness.
Mhm.
And it,
Well,
and it
this is it, right? It's just sharing our experience, strength, and hope. That's all we
mm,
can do. It's
yeah.
a total inside job. But,
But you gotta want that inside to change.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
you have to want it for you,
right,
or it's never gonna take in the same way
right.
as
And
somebody
you
like,
have, right, you have to work at it. Like,
oh yeah.
whatever, I mean, I think something prescient for people to understand is it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're practicing it right now. Whatever, you're focusing on, you're getting, and that's what you're practicing. So, this notion of willingness to change, it's like, well, what am I practicing right now in my mind, right? Like, what am I, and I just keep recreating this. Am I actually willing to change and look at something else? you know that's what you're talking about. You were willing, right? You wanted what we had and were willing to work for it, because it doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for anyone. We work for it. We have to work diligently to change ourselves. Like, if nothing changes, nothing changes. You have to do something different. Otherwise you're just going to keep getting the same thing. So I know it sounds trite and silly, but that's the truth. It's whatever you're doing right now is what you're practicing. And life's a practice. It's not perfection
Mhm,
anywhere. But just if you come at it with a sense of curiosity, joy, and willingness, like you're talking about, right?
mhm.
Um, just to see, like, just to see, like, well, I wonder what'll happen, right? Like,
Well,
have I earnestly really been willing to go to any lengths, or have I been half-hearted?
well, I mean, look at our two topics today. I bet you anybody listening, experiment. If 3 days, load your days with gratitude. 3 days, load your days with contempt, and see how
Yeah,
contemptuous your contempt days are. Like,
yeah,
like just be like, like just be contemptuous about everything. And I guarantee those days are not going to be the shining examples of what life can be.
100%. And
Could you
well,
imagine a contemptuous list? Like people are sharing it. Oh my God, that would be
well,
so
that's
funny.
sort of how we lived,
It is. It is
before.
essentially a pity party is really a contemptuous list.
And to quote an ancient line, there's a depth of good and evil, of north, south, east,
Mhm.
west. Like, there's no limit to where you can go. So choose wisely. Like you can go
Mhm.
down to the depths of unbelievable depravity, working contempt in your life,
Mhm.
like real evil, really.
Yeah.
uh and there's no depth to that when you think about it, and the same with the opposite of that, of gratitude. Like there's no depth to that. I know this story, but I'll just share it with your listeners if I haven't shared it before. I remember, because I had this pity party you're talking about, and this victim, and just this itty bitty crappy committee in my head that just went on and on, talking about gratitude, like, and I just couldn't get it. And I remember my sponsor said, Trish, just start with your hands. And I was like, kind of, what? And she said, every time you use your hands, be grateful for them. And that was many, many, many years ago. And to this day, I still do that. That turns me around no matter what I'm doing, because I'm always using my hands. I'm always using my hands. I think, wow, look at, hands are incredible. I look at other people's hands. I have such reverence for other people's hands and my own, and just think of the things that they've nurtured, that they've cared for, that they've created, that they've made, that they've grown, that they've built, that they've played like instruments to, there's just there's no end to it when you think about, like, the hands of God and the mind of man. Wow, anything's possible. And I to this day I have such gratitude for her sharing that with me, because that's exactly what I needed. And like I said, to this day I even use my hands when I sleep. I
Yeah.
lately I've been having some hip issues, and so I toss around a little bit, and that actually helps me with sometimes with the pain I'm feeling as I move around. I use my hands and I'm adjusting my pillow, and I think, thank God for my hands.
Yeah. Like well, before my back surgery, which was 23 years ago, in the year and a half before, I lost the ability to walk twice for like 2.5, 3 weeks. And I'll tell you, like, yeah, it really taught me to value walking real
Right.
quick, real quick. When like dragging my 200-pound body around by my hands to an outhouse that had stairs across a gravel driveway, yay. Like, yay in the pouring rain in the winter on the coast. Like, no, yay. Like,
Yeah,
walking, like health in any format
is
is
wealth.
so valued the second it's gone.
Oh yeah, that's how I sort of started this with you, is about the things we take for granted. I
Yeah.
remember a simple one too. This was shortly after I had gotten sober. I remember I was at my house, and they had, the community that I lived in had shut down the water. They were doing some major upgrades or whatever, and it was going to be shut off for a day and a half. Oh my Lord. I can't even begin to tell you how it was the first time in my life that it really occurred to me how much I use and take for granted water, whether it was from the tap, the toilet, whatever. It was just at every turn, and it just seemed to go on and on. And to this day, I am so great. I come up, that turns my spirit around. I come up to the sink and I just go, wow, look at this. Look at this miracle. I pull this handle, water comes out, and the same in my toilet, and my shower. It's like, wow, yeah, I've got a lot to be grateful for. So, start with little things. If you're new in the program or struggling with gratitude, just start with those little things, with your hands, the air you breathe, the water that you take for granted, all these things. And I become very grateful very quickly. And it also reminds me, again, like you said, health is wealth, of just how much I took for granted, and how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, the first place I built, I had to carry my water in. We had no run, I had no running water,
Wow.
and yeah, I'll tell you, like water pumped through a tube into your house might like Some
It's a miracle.
some people have never lived without it other than camping, and and some people never get to live with it in the
Right.
world, right? Like I
What a
feel
miracle. What a miracle.
it is such such a luxury that I
Mhm.
appreciate so much.
Yeah.
When my water's working, I'm like, whoa! I'm so grateful for it. I like baths. I like showers. I like clean vegetables. I like,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
like drinking it. Like, whoa, look at I'm a wild man.
Right. And it's only, we only really, and that's the diabolical nature of human beings, right? We only really recognize until it's not there. It's like you say about the air you breathe, right? And so for
Mm.
people struggling with the spiritual nature of the program, I mean, you know, you become a believer of things unseen when all the oxygen is sucked out of the room, right? It's like, okay, I can't see it, I can't touch it, I can't taste it, I can't feel it, but boy, I'm willing to believe
Hmm.
when it's taken away. Yeah.
Are you ready for a question?
Sure.
Okay. The contempt we had for spiritual solutions often delayed our healing. Looking back, what spiritual principle did you once resist that now sustains you?
Well, I think I would have to say uh, this notion of, you know, coming to believe and turning my life and my will over to a power greater than myself.
But
Like,
would you bundle that into faith or no?
sure,
Yeah.
sure, absolutely. Like to have faith, and today it's like just to think that I had any problem with the spiritual nature of the program. I look out my window and I'm thinking, well, there's no place God isn't. I mean, just just look around. Some of the places I travel, I really like to snorkel. That's another place where that comes to full
Ooh, we.
fruition for me,
Mm,
because that no human hand had anything to do with this. If you ever snorkeled around under the sea, it's a completely different world, and it's anathema to anything that we think we could create, or uh big events like volcanoes and earthquakes. It's like, yeah, I really have no power over that. You start to think about awesome power in a different way, or I certainly did. I started to think about um what is true power, and what kind of power do I have in my life. And really, it's such an inside job. It's a simple program. It's easy to, it's easy to practice, and just to sort of stay in my lane. It's actually relieved a lot of anxiety and fear from me, where it's just, when I'm doing what is good for self and other, right, when I'm not living in
mm,
contradiction of my own values. And I all know that from behavior, and think, would how would you respond to someone behaving to you like that? you know
mm-hmm.
so just it keeps me in check. But it's yeah, there's no place where God isn't in my world today. I live beside what I call the bird condo. Right out my deck is an enormous tree where there's 1,000 birds that are out there every morning. And I think, wow, look at that. Does God not feed the little birds? Look at that, you know
I love that. So, looking back, what spiritual principle did I once resist that now sustains me? It's right here, stamped on my arm. Acceptance for
Okay.
me. Like definitely in my first couple sets of steps, most of my resentments were born from a lack of acceptance. And it now is like kind of one of the things that I trudge towards is to feeling a greater level of acceptance in my life, and so it really sustains my interest. It sustains my peace, and my serenity, because
Mhm.
when I have my acceptance, for moments, life sure is easy,
Right.
like so much easier. Like acceptance
It's
is
the
like
opposite of resistance.
it really is. Sure. Yeah. And and resistance is literally a way to measure how hard it is to go through something. Like electrically, it's literally how hard it is to
100%.
push through something.
Yeah.
There's units of measurements of resistance, ohms. And yeah, so I mean, living a life where acceptance is growing inside me has been a real transformative, amazing experience that I'm cherishing getting to have, you know. And when, you know,
What are some of the things you had contempt for today that you've turned to gratitude?
ooh, well, I mean, okay, first of all, my higher power right
Yeah.
there. You know,
Yeah.
like I definitely contempt on that front. Well, and I mean, I think control, you know, like or like I when I say like acceptance, right? I
Mm.
didn't want to accept the world. I wanted the world to just get in line and act properly. You
Yeah,
know?
conform to the way I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, and that's and now, you know, like I'm really experiencing gratitude being part of the world and having the opportunity to grow through the experiences that I'm having, you know? And that, you know, not all growth is painful, but from all pain there can be growth.
Yeah.
And that's something that is just was would never have been on my okay list 22. Can't wait for some more pain. Let's like, you know, let's grow.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I was happy with the pseudo growth where I thought I was all enlightened and like I was just actually really high, you know?
Yeah, right.
But that's not who I am now. I, you know, like I'm just enjoying this journey and that, and, you know, being able to recognize the opportunities for growth is one of the greatest gifts, right? You know, like I'm grateful for the ability to finally see that, you know, it's not all against me, this universe, you know?
Yeah, right.
I
This
like it,
universe.
and it's actually not even about me.
Yeah, right. I will say too, you just reminded me of, just the things that I find enjoyable today as opposed to, when I was polluted, right?
Mhm.
uh just it's just remarkable the things I enjoy today. And the thing about, self-reflection and seeing the world the other another way, and playing with this notion of how I co-create things, and exercising those things of like, how can I how do I make things better or worse, and being self-aware of that. There's such a depth to it. Like, it's so interesting. It's and that's what jazzes me. Like, I've always been a very curious person, and just interesting in how things work. You know, like, really, how does all this happen? And today, by practicing these principles, I get to really explore that and see how I co-create these things, whether I hurt, harm, or heal, just with my participation. Like, what, and again, it just leads back to what's my part. And then I get to see where I'm powerful and where I'm powerless. And there's no end to that. Like, it's a daily practice, and it's fun and enjoyable today. And I would have never thought that before.
It's amazing how much that change of perspective and open-mindedness to the lessons and the struggles of life being our vehicle for growth changes our acceptance of them, you know?
Yeah, like, self-reflection is everything. And I think that's really what we're here to do, is just to reflect on self and self's part in the bigger sphere of our connectedness. Like, um yeah, there's a lot of power in that, both personally and with others. Like, what we get an opportunity to create today with our free will consciously, and really be able to reflect on that. And I think that's really the gold, the juice of this program. It's like, oh, yeah. And again, there's no depth to that.
I love that. I've got a question for you. Are
All
you
right,
ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, contempt says, I already know. Gratitude says, I'm ready to learn again. How do you continue to cultivate curiosity and humility in long term recovery?
Right. Yeah, thanks. What a great question. You just reminded me with the first part of that question of my constant refrain of I know, I know, I know. And and I see that a lot with newcomers. Again, an opportunity for me to go, I am that I am. Oh yeah, I remember that. It's like, well, if you know, then why are you here? How did you get here if you're so knowing, all knowing?
Mm.
Um, and so I guess the end of that question was what, can you just repeat the end of the question?
Yeah, so how do you continue to cultivate curiosity and humility in long term recovery?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the examples, when that stuff's reflected back to me, I mean, I'll get that pang of, oh, but then recognize immediately, like, I am that I am. Like, I have to have I have to practice that kind of patience, tolerance, acceptance, and compassion for others that was extended to me. Because when I think about the way I was when I first got here, and the things that I thought and said, uh, it kind of makes me laugh and cringe at the same time. Really, oh yeah, what you think what you think um but underneath all that was just many many forms of protection because I was overwhelmed with this idea of listing fears, right? Because the truth of the matter, there was nothing I wasn't afraid of. So that's a pretty long list. Like, where do you start with that, right? Um so you know, that's how this program has taught me some humility, is because I'm able to self-reflect and remember that I am that I am, and from whence I came, and all of that. I sort of think of time as like, all these different timelines are happening on the same spoke of the wheel. It's just we're just have at different places on the wheel of time, right? So um I think that has really helped me a lot, is just to constantly remember who I was and from whence I came, and then to extend the kind of compassion and understanding that was given to me, because I was a very difficult person to work with and to get through to, you know. And I think that that kind of tragic self-confidence and insecurity and fear is can be it's like working with a terrified rabid dog. It's going to take a lot of time and patience, but I have to learn how to extend that to the person in front of me, and just keep approaching, just keep extending that love, extending that olive branch, extending that compassion. So because I think a lot of us come into this program, Milan, without, and I'll speak for myself, without any trust, belief, or faith in anything or anyone, least of all ourselves. So building that pathway, it's like trudging through the jungle with a machete, right? And building a path. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a dense jungle, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
you know. Um, so that's sort of the way I look at it. And today I'm able to at least have that much humility. The meeting I went to last night was all about humility, but I'm able to have that much humility today to go, oh yeah, yeah, right. I have to think about what was freely given to me, and there's my responsibility, right? That's the
Hmm.
responsibility statement. Just keep sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And I think a lot of times what makes this program so amazing is the kind of honesty that we're asked to step forward with and share
Hmm.
is the machete, you know, where we're able to share really honestly about the way we were and what happened. And for others to be able to look and go, oh my God, that's me. Like,
Yeah.
like that's me. And that might be the gentlest way to do it, I think. So this is what I love about the way this program is laid out. It's attraction rather than promotion. We don't convince anybody. We just
Hmm.
share the deep down honest truth.
Hmm.
When we see that I am in someone else, that's where I start. It's like, okay, let me tell you a story about me.
Yeah.
And you know, and hopefully they'll see a bit of themselves there and go, oh, wow, okay. And because for me, the depth of honesty in the room was just remarkable. It was
Mhm.
it was mind blowing to me, like mind blowing. I just couldn't believe these people were saying this stuff, you know. Like I've said before, you know, there's a lot of things I would go to the grave with, but these people were not only sharing about it, but kind of with a lightness of being and even some humor. And you know,
Mhm.
so that's when I knew, okay, these are my people.
I love that. How do I continue to cultivate curiosity and humility in my recovery? So, I see like the knowledge in general, but especially in this program, like an upside down pyramid. Like every time I'm here, there's here to learn and here and here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
That's great, Milan.
I don't have to cultivate my curiosity. I'm presented with things almost at the exact moment I need them to in order to continue upon my path. But it does entail me being aware enough that I need them, you
The
know?
gift of presence,
Well, and the humility to be like, whoa, yeah, I could really use that, instead of being like, oh, no, I'm pretty good on that, you know?
which comes from the gift of presence, like you're present
Mm.
enough to be able to see that.
Yeah, and I'm enthralled, like I get to do these podcasts, with somebody like yourself who has like 8 times the recovery that I have in time. And I'm not saying that the time counts, but what counts, is that you have those moments of experience. So when we talk about something, your brain scans through, you know, 15, 16 years of your adventure here in recovery and pulls out the things that you think are pertinent to share with me and the audience, you know? And I'm so lucky that I get to like record these all the time with people like like I bet you if you add up all the people who've come on this show, like we're sitting at a few thousand years of recovery. And and
Yeah.
and I and I get to understand some of the lessons you've learned without having to learn them. Like that's why a moment ago I was saying not all growth comes from pain because sometimes I'm not hurt at all to learn from and grow from your experience. And
Yeah.
that's one of the benefits of just keeping your ears open.
Yeah, and we're able to do that today because we're present and we're not polluted. And
Hmm.
we have a measure of self-esteem and self-respect and self-compassion and self-forgiveness today to allow us to go, oh, I get the bigger concentric ring of what all this is.
Hmm. Absolutely. So we are now at an hour and 20 minutes, and I'm just wondering, do you want one more question or not?
Well, yeah, sure. If we've got 10 more minutes left, we'll
Yeah.
squeeze that in. Go ahead.
Okay. Spiritual growth begins the moment we stop defending what no longer serves us. What old belief or habit did you have to surrender to find peace?
Mm.
Ooh, I'm
Well,
it's like
you know,
sizzling.
speaking, yeah, speaking of presence, like, you know, I had to really surrender this need for it was like a pathological need for control, I guess, and constantly living in the past or the future, right?
Mm,
So so I had to surrender that of wanting to live in the past or the future in order to be present. And because that I couldn't really learn anything or get anywhere unless I was present, you
mhm.
know, in the moment. And
You have
I
no conscious contact.
yeah, and but not even with myself. Like how, you know, how are you supposed to self-reflect when you're never really here? Like, so, you know, and I don't know how anyone would do that. If you don't know how to be present with yourself in any given moment, I don't know how you would learn uh, you know, other things. So and it wasn't as scary for whatever reason. It was obvious that I was fearful about being present. And it wasn't as scary as I thought. I really, I had no, I had no reference uh, for living presently. I really didn't. So like growing up too. So it took a lot longer than necessary. But I would say that's one thing. And then just what was the end of the question again?
What old belief or habit did you have to surrender to find peace?
Yeah, and this need for like thinking somehow that I could control anything. So this need for control and you know, thinking that I had, you know, some sort of power that I didn't. Um, you know, so I really had to surrender completely. Like until we let go, absolutely took me longer than it should have, and I made it harder than it really was. And I would say that's just because of fear, and it was unfounded fear because I, you know, I'd never tried it. So I, you know, I don't, when I think about it and break it down, it's like I don't know what the heck I was so afraid of. Like, you know, and I will say that over the years I've really had to look at a lot of loss in my life. So coming from a place of loss rather than gain, like worried about what I was going to lose rather than what I was going to gain. I didn't have a pathway for that. You know, everything was just all about loss. So today I look at it as an opportunity to gain. Like what might I gain from this? And that has a whole different flavor about it. And certainly, you know, there's no fear in that. It's just, you know, yeah, it's an opportunity for growth today that again, I don't have the fear that I did, but boy, when I think back, it's incredible the kind of fear I lived in. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. I mean, it's a really tough place to be, to live in fear. So I've abandoned that, and that's been also through 1, 2, and 3, right? Like really turning it over
Hmm. I love that.
and really believing in a good God that's got me. Like this is for my good. I believe God is good minus an O, you know.
Mhm.
So don't worry, I got you. And when I stepped into that, and I had this big revelation, like I said, just recently, it was just about a year and a half, 2 years ago, where I was really tested uh, with my faith, and I realized I hadn't. There was this big part of me that still hadn't surrendered entirely. And once I did, man, the gifts I received from that are immeasurable.
Surrender is the best.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of letting go of the rope, and when it actually happens.
I will just share this too with your listeners if this is
Mhm.
helpful. But my, you know, because this was a tough one for me. As I said, there was still a big piece just a couple of years ago that I let go of. But my first sponsor said, Trish, just stop. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to clench your entire body from your toes to your jaw and every muscle in between. And as tight as you can, just tense up and hold it. So I did this exercise and, you know, I'm like shaking. And, you know, she's just talking and I'm thinking, what in the hell? And, you know, what is going on? And she finally said, okay, have you had enough? And I was like, yeah, like, what is this? And she said, okay, let go, completely relax everything from head to toe. She goes, that's the way you're living. And it was such a visceral thing for
Ooh, yeah.
me um,
Mhm.
that I was able to really relate to it. And still to this day, yeah, that was a really powerful. So she was really good. You know, I got the right person for sure. Um, and yeah, I was able to really, to this day, I think about it.
I love that. You know, I've heard a similar thing with holding, pretend you're holding a rope. Same thing. And I think that that is a beautiful image and place for us to end right now.
Perfect.
And I love you, Trish. I'm really grateful that you wanted to come on today. Would you like to end with the Serenity Prayer?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hey, ready? Who's in
Yep.
charge?
God,
God,
grant
grant
us
me
the
the
serenity
serenity
to
to
accept the
accept the
things we
things we
cannot
cannot
change,
change,
the courage to
Courage to
change
change
the
the things
things we
we
can,
can,
and the
and the
wisdom to
wisdom
know
to
the
know the
difference.
difference. Thy will be done, not mine.
Woo! And everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye
Thank
bye, everybody.
you.
I love you. Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.